Welcome back to the Paranormal State, Washington, and UFO UAP. With Makāula Nakae, a lifelong experiencer and ET contactee since 1990. Today's episode: 1977 Cycloptic Aliens of Harrah, Washington. The Cycloptic Aliens of Harrah case remains one of the most vividly bizarre and oddly detailed accounts in the history of Washington State's high strangeness. It stands out not only for the peculiar description of the entities, but because of the tangible physical evidence reported by witnesses in the aftermath. The encounter, January 19, 1977. On a cold winter morning, shortly before 6:30 a.m., 9-year-old Jose Cantu woke early to make breakfast at his family's farmhouse in Harrah, a small rural town in Yakima County. While looking out the window, he spotted something that defied any standard biological or mechanical classification. He alerted his mother, Martha, but her exhaustion, coupled with a fussy infant, led her to dismiss his pleas. Undeterred, the young Jose went outside to face the visitors alone. The beings Jose described were roughly 3 feet tall and greenish. Their appearance was so far removed from the standard gray archetype that it borders on the surreal. Each creature had a single, large eye positioned in the center of a circular, disc-like head. They sported pig-like noses, coarse hair, and mushroom-capped antennae. Perhaps the most striking element of the report was the locomotion. The creatures appeared to be perched on rotating, tubular seats supported by wide bases. As the child observed them, these bases seemed to act as their primary mode of movement, leading some later researchers to speculate whether the seats were part of the creatures themselves, effectively making them cyborgs, or highly advanced personal transport modules. Jose claimed there were 2 craft involved, one parked in the backyard and another perched directly on the roof of his parents' home. He described the craft as having straight stairs interpreted as a ramp, and portals that opened in a cross-like configuration. What elevates the Harrah case from a mere tall tale to a matter of local investigation were the physical marks left behind. After neighbors, including Jose's mother and a local family named Sanchez, investigated the yard, they reported clear, circular impressions approximately 10 feet in diameter. In the center of these impressions, the uncut grass was noted to be swirled upward, a phenomenon often reported in cases involving intense electromagnetic or gravitational anomalies. Investigators found specific sets of indentations consisting of 3 holes each, corresponding to where the entities had been seen standing or parked on their bases. The investigation into the Harrah incident took a more serious turn than most local UFO reports. Classroom aides and school officials who interacted with Jose in the following days described him as a serious, studious child who showed no signs of being a prankster or an imaginative storyteller. The case gained enough local notoriety that an officer from the Yakima Indian Reserve, Willard J. Vogel, visited the Cantu farm to investigate the site and interview the family. The story was picked up by the Toppenish Review on January 26, 1977, under the headline, "Harrah Youth Reports UFOs with Greenish Creatures." While modern skeptics often point to the age of the witness, those who were present at the farm in 1977, from the mother to the school officials to the responding officers, were struck by the consistency and calm demeanor of the boy. The lack of radiation, verified by a Geiger counter, didn't dampen the intrigue surrounding the physical impressions left in the soil. The Harrah encounter remains a deep state of mind classic because it defies the sanitized narrative of ufology. It suggests that if the phenomenon is real, it is not merely a collection of silver saucers and gray humanoids, but something far more diverse, bizarre, and technologically inscrutable. A cosmic open house that leaves behind swirled grass and one-eyed enigmas. If you were an interdimensional traveler looking to park your craft, where would you go? A crowded, smoggy city skyline where everyone has a smartphone and a Twitter account. Or a vast, desolate tectonic fault line, riddled desert corridor that smells faintly of apple orchards and atomic secrets. If you're an extraterrestrial with a penchant for scenic vistas, wide open airspace, and a suspicious interest in human nuclear capabilities, the answer is clearly Yakima, Washington. While Kenneth Arnold put Washington on the map in 1947, the early 1970s marked the shift from sporadic saucer sightings to a sustained, repeatable UFO rodeo that forced the scientific community to actually put down their coffee, pick up a camera, and accept that the universe was playing tag with them. The YTC, a massive 300,000-acre military playground, became the focal point. Because the land was restricted, it served as the perfect safe harbor for anomalous activity. The sightings weren't just random, fleeting flashes. They were characterized by a strange orb-like intelligence. Witnesses described lights that seemed to communicate with each other, shifting through a complex color spectrum, red, green, blue, and white, before executing maneuvers that would have turned any human-built airframe into confetti. Even more unnerving were the ground interaction reports. Ranchers and base personnel occasionally observed these objects pulsing light onto the sagebrush and scrubland, as if they were performing a botanical survey or checking soil quality, then rocketing away before anyone could ask what they were doing with the local flora. It's hard to call a swamp gas defense when the swamp is actively being scanned by an intelligent, multicolored light show. The Yakima wave is arguably the most scientifically studied UFO incident in American history, largely thanks to Dr. Harley D. Rutledge, a physicist and department chair at Southeast Missouri State University. Rutledge arrived in Yakima with an arsenal of professional equipment. High-end cameras with telephoto lenses, wide-angle arrays, Geiger counters, and, most crucially, dedicated triangulation teams. Rutledge didn't just stand in a field and watch the sky. He set up stations across the region to triangulate the altitude, speed, and location of the objects. He didn't just guess. He proved that the objects were moving at speeds and angles that rendered the usual debunking excuses, optical illusions, meteors, or weather balloons mathematically impossible. In his seminal book, Project Identification, the first scientific field study of UFO phenomena, Rutledge cataloged over 178 separate sightings. His conclusion was both revolutionary and professional suicide. The phenomena were intelligent, structured, and under conscious control. The reports during this 3-year peak, 1972 to 1975, followed a recurring blueprint that remains the benchmark for UAP studies. The objects weren't random, they appeared consistently in specific geographic corridors. Multiple teams of observers, miles apart, would report the same object simultaneously, confirming the objects were physically located in the sky, rather than being a collective hallucination caused by bad leftovers. Most haunting was the intelligence factor. Witnesses, including law enforcement officers and military personnel, frequently remarked that the objects seemed to react to the observers. When the researchers would train their cameras or lights on them, the objects would often dim, retreat, or suddenly accelerate. It was a game of cosmic cat and mouse, and it was clear who had the better equipment. The proximity of the Yakima Training Center meant that the military was tracking the same objects the civilians were seeing. While official military reports remain largely obscured, it's an open secret among researchers that the YTC was a hotspot precisely because the Air Force and the Army were monitoring the UAP activity to see if these objects were interfering with military hardware. Despite internal curiosity, the official line remained the Project Grudge Blue Book standard: deny and obfuscate. This created a bizarre cultural phenomenon in Yakima, where the local newspaper would be filled with credible accounts from police officers, while the official military line in the next column would be a bland no comment or a claim of meteoric activity. The Yakima sightings provided a proof of concept for the modern UAP movement. Dr. Rutledge proved that if you stop relying on anecdotes and start relying on triangulation and data, you can verify that the skies are occupied by something that doesn't belong to the FAA or the Pentagon. The Yakima corridor remains a permanent fixture in ufology, not because it's spooky, but because it was the first time professional, skeptical science looked up, started a stopwatch, and realized that the lights were playing by a set of rules we hadn't even written the textbook for yet. To be continued. Watch and listen. Watch the cinematic video trailer. Listen to the full podcast now. Explore the archive Cosmic Awakening Volume 1, 1991, Peru, Journey into the Unknown. Sacred Valley of the Incas. Volume 2, Ascension 2012, The Golden Alchemy. Part 3, The First Contact and the Paranormal State. Join the journey. New episodes drop periodically. Each chapter delivers a tight, hyper-focused 10 to 30-minute exploration into the evolution of ufology, perfect for your daily plunge into decoding hidden messages from outer space, designed to raise awareness and foster human evolution. Subscribe to support your inner development. Thumbs up to help push our channel through the algorithm. Comment below. Share your thoughts on today's episode.